"You're old and useless," my son said, so I sold the house he lived in and left the keys with the buyer. Then he came home from work. The coffee was still warm in my hands when my son Michael walked into the kitchen that Tuesday morning. I had been up since 5, as I always was, preparing his breakfast before his shift at the tech company. Scrambled eggs just the way he liked them, toast, buttered on both sides. Fresh orange juice. "Morning, honey," I said, setting his plate on the table. "I ironed your blue shirt." He didn't look up from his phone, just grunted and sat down. This was normal now. Ever since his divorce 2 years ago, since he'd moved back into the house where he'd grown up, our conversations had dwindled to logistics and silence. I didn't mind. At 72, I was grateful for the company. Having Michael here felt like a blessing, even a distant Michael. "Mrs. Henderson mentioned her son is looking for a place to rent," I said, trying to make conversation. "Remember how you two used to play in the sprinklers?" Michael looked up, his expression cold. "Mom, can you just stop?" "Stop what?" "This whole domestic goddess thing. I'm not 12. I don't need you making breakfast and chattering about neighbors." He stood up, leaving half his eggs untouched. "I have work." "I just thought." "You thought what? That I want to live in some 1950s fantasy?" His voice was rising. "I'm 34 years old, Mom. Do you know how embarrassing it is to tell people I live with my mother?" The words hit like a slap. "Michael, when Sarah left when you needed a place, you thought you could turn me back into your little boy?" The vein in his temple pulsed with anger. "Well, news flash, I'm not your little boy. I'm a grown man who made a mistake moving back here." I stood slowly, arthritis making the movement painful. "If you're unhappy, you can always move out. With what money? You think I can afford San Francisco rent while paying alimony?" He laughed bitterly. "No, Mom, I'm stuck here, stuck in this house, stuck with you hovering, stuck with your constant need to feel useful." The kitchen fell silent except for the clock ticking. The same clock that had marked time through his childhood, through the night I waited for him to come home from prom, through the morning I helped him pack for college. "I just want to help," I whispered. "Help?" Michael turned back and I saw something cruel in his eyes. "Mom, you're old and useless. Your helping doesn't help anyone. It just makes you feel better about the fact that your life is over and mine is just beginning. So do me a favor and stop pretending we're some happy family. You're just the person whose house I happen to live in until I can afford to get out." The words hung in the air like smoke. I felt something crack inside my chest, not my heart exactly, but something deeper, something that had been holding me together for 70 years. Michael grabbed his keys. "I'll be home late, don't wait up, and Mom, maybe think about what you want to do with the rest of your life, because this isn't working for either of us." The door slammed with such force that the family photo on the refrigerator fell to the floor. Glass scattered across the linoleum, and through the spiderweb cracks I could see our faces from 5 years ago. Michael's arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling at his graduation. I knelt down carefully and picked up the broken frame. A shard cut my finger and I watched the blood well up, bright red against pale skin. "Old and useless." I walked to my chair, the one his father had bought me for my 50th birthday. Through the window, I could see the garden I had tended for 37 years, the roses I had planted when we first moved in. "Old and useless." I reached for the phone, fingers finding the business card tucked behind it, the one I had kept for 3 years but never thought I would use. "Bentley Real Estate," the voice said. "This is Patricia." "Patricia," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "This is Margaret Chen. I think it's time we talked about selling my house." After I hung up, I sat in the silence and let the memories come. They arrived like unwelcome guests, each carrying the weight of years I had spent believing love was enough. I remembered the night Michael was born, how David had driven through a thunderstorm to get me to the hospital, how I had labored for 14 hours gripping his hand. When Michael finally arrived, purple and screaming, the doctor placed him on my chest. "Congratulations, Mrs. Chen. You have a son." A son, it had felt like a miracle. I remembered his first steps in this living room. 11 months old, pulling himself up on the coffee table, then letting go and taking 3 wobbly steps toward me. I had called everyone I knew. Michael walked, my baby walked. I remembered the night he broke his arm falling from the oak tree. He was 7, trying to build a treehouse. At the hospital, he cried not from pain but disappointment. I just wanted to make something, Mom, something that was mine. We finished that treehouse together, every weekend for 2 months, measuring boards, hammering nails, painting it bright blue. When it was done, he hung a sign, Michael's fort, no girls allowed except Mom. The treehouse was still there, paint peeling. Michael hadn't looked at it in years. I remembered his high school graduation. David had died 2 years earlier, sudden heart attack at 59, and it was just Michael and me in the audience. When they called his name, I clapped until my palms stung. At the backyard party afterward, he hugged me tight. Thanks for everything, Mom. I know it hasn't been easy since Dad died. It hadn't been easy, but it had been worthwhile. I remembered helping him move into his college dorm, how he'd been embarrassed by my tears but hugged me anyway. Don't change my room, I want it exactly the same when I come home. I hadn't changed it. Not for 4 years of college, not for graduate school, not for the 5 years he lived with Sarah. His room remained a shrine to a boy who no longer existed. I remembered his wedding day, how proud he seemed introducing me to his colleagues. This is my mom, she raised me all by herself after my dad died, she's amazing. Amazing, not old and useless, amazing. I remembered the divorce call, his voice hollow, defeated. It's over, Mom, Sarah found someone else, someone with more ambition. When he asked to move back home just temporarily, I said yes without hesitation. But somewhere between then and now, something changed. Maybe I had been fooling myself, thinking love was a two-way street, that sacrifice created gratitude. The phone rang, Patricia from Bentley Real Estate. Mrs. Chen, I can be there in an hour. I'm excited about this property. The location is perfect and the market is hot. We could have you under contract within a week. A week? Oh yes, I have a cash buyer who's been looking for exactly this. A young couple with a new baby, they want to move fast. A young couple with a baby? I thought about Michael's old crib in the attic, saved for grandchildren who might never come. Mrs. Chen. 1 hour is fine. After hanging up, I walked through the house slowly, seeing it with new eyes, not as the home where I raised my son, but as the asset it would become. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, hardwood floors, a corner lot with mature landscaping. Everything a young family would want. I stopped at Michael's bedroom door. It was closed, as always. He had made it clear his space was his space, not to be entered without permission. Behind that door was the life of a man who thought his mother was old and useless. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Patricia walking up the path, briefcase in hand, eyes calculating. Patricia was exactly what I expected. Mid-40s, perfectly styled blonde hair, practiced smile. She wore a navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly Social Security check. "Oh my goodness, Mrs. Chen," she said in the entryway. "This is exactly what they're looking for. Look at these original hardwood floors, the crown molding. They don't make houses like this anymore." She pulled out her phone, taking pictures. Each flash felt like a small explosion, documenting the end of something I couldn't name. "The kitchen has been updated beautifully," she continued, running manicured fingers along my granite countertops. "And this breakfast nook, perfect for a growing family. Is that an herb garden?" "Yes, basil, oregano, thyme. I planted it when Michael was in high school. He used to help me cook." Patricia nodded absently, already moving toward the living room. "Excellent natural light. Oh, and this fireplace, original brick. My husband built it in 1987. Our first winter here was so cold." I touched the mantel, feeling the roughness where David's inexperienced hands had struggled. He worked on it every weekend for 2 months. "Charming." Patricia was already looking at the Builtin bookshelves. "These stay with the house, correct? Built-ins add significant value." I nodded, though each book felt like a betrayal. Cookbooks collected over 40 years of marriage. gardening guides that helped me create the backyard Michael played in, photo albums documenting every birthday, every milestone. "Let's talk numbers," Patricia said, settling at the kitchen table where I'd served thousands of meals. "Based on comparables, I think we should list at $1.2 million. The market is so hot we might get a bidding war." $1.2 million. More money than David and I ever imagined when we bought this place for $87,000 in 1986. "There will be costs," she continued. "Commission, closing costs, but you should net around $950,000. Nearly $1 million, enough to live comfortably without depending on anyone, enough to teach my son what old and useless really looked like." "How quickly can we close?" Patricia looked surprised. "If you're motivated, I have buyers who can close in 2 weeks. Cash, no contingencies, very clean." 2 weeks, 2 weeks to dismantle a lifetime. I signed the papers with hands that didn't feel like mine. Each signature felt like a small death, the erasure of Margaret Chen, homeowner. "I'll have photos taken tomorrow, on the market by Friday," Patricia said, gathering documents. "You might consider staging, it can increase sale price by 10%. "No staging, I want them to see it as it is." After Patricia left, I stared at the phone. Michael's work number was programmed into speed dial. I could call him, give him a chance to apologize. Instead, I dialed a different number. "Pine Ridge Storage, how can I help you?" "I need to rent a unit, a large one, immediately." That afternoon, I began erasing myself from the house. I started with closets, packing David's clothes I'd never given away, his favorite sweater with the hole he wouldn't let me mend, his work boots, still muddy from the last garden work. I packed my own things, 40 years reduced to boxes labeled keep, donate, storage, wedding china used only on special occasions, quilts my grandmother made, jewelry David had given me over the years. By evening, 12 boxes and 3 garbage bags. The house looked different, less lived in. I was taping the last box when Michael's key turned in the door. His footsteps crossed the entryway, paused, continued to the kitchen. "Mom, what's with all the boxes?" I didn't turn around. "Spring cleaning." "It's October." "Fall cleaning then." Silence. I could feel him looking at the boxes, confused. "Are you moving?" I turned slowly, meeting his eyes for the first time since morning. He looked tired, older. "I'm doing what you suggested, thinking about what I want to do with the rest of my life." "Mom, about this morning." "You were right, Michael, this isn't working for either of us." Relief flickered across his face, followed by guilt. "So you're moving to a retirement home." I smiled, the first genuine smile all day. "Something like that, don't worry, you'll have plenty of notice." He nodded, uncomfortable but relieved. "That's probably for the best." "I thought you'd think so." 2 weeks later, I stood in the driveway at 6:30 a.m. watching the moving truck pull away. Everything I owned was either in storage or packed into my Honda Civic. The house was empty except for Michael's belongings, which I had carefully moved to the living room and covered with sheets. Patricia had called the night before. "The buyers want immediate possession after closing. They're so excited, they promised to take good care of your gardens." Strangers promising to care for what my son dismissed as worthless. Michael had left for work an hour earlier, same routine as always. He hadn't noticed the empty kitchen, the bare walls, the evidence of our shared life erased. He'd been so absorbed he hadn't seen the closing documents on the counter or the 2 sets of keys beside them. At 7:45, a blue Honda Pilot pulled into the driveway. Tom and Lisa Patel got out with their 2-year-old daughter, Maya. They looked exactly as Patricia described, young, hopeful, overwhelmed. Tom carried Maya while Lisa held paperwork. They walked to the front door, used one of my keys, and disappeared inside. I could imagine them seeing their future in the empty spaces, planning where furniture would go, which room would be Maya's nursery when the new baby arrived. I drove to Starbucks on Valencia Street where I'd arranged to meet Patricia for final paperwork. She was already there with folders and documents. Mrs. Chen, congratulations, you are now officially $987,000 richer. The wire transfer should hit your account by noon. I signed the last papers with steady hands. Each signature was another step away from who I'd been toward who I was becoming. After Patricia left, I sat watching people hurry past the window, life continuing indifferent to my small drama. At 3:30 my phone rang, Michael's number. I let it go to voicemail. Mom, what the hell is going on? There are people in our house, people with a baby, they say they bought it, they have keys. Mom, call me back right now. I deleted the message and ordered another coffee. At 4:15 he called again. Mom, I'm serious, these people are telling me you sold the house, they have paperwork, they're saying I have to leave, where are you? Delete. At 4:45, I called Patricia Bentley, she confirmed it. You actually sold our house without telling me, how could you do this to me? Delete. At 5:20, I don't understand, the house was in your name but it's my home too, I live there, my stuff is there, you can't just sell someone's home out from under them. Mom, please call me back, I'm scared. I almost answered that one. The word scared hit like a physical blow, taking me back to every nightmare I'd soothed away. But I remembered his voice, you're old and useless. At 6:10, okay, I get it, you're angry, what I said was horrible. I was having a bad day, but Mom, this is crazy. Selling the house, making me homeless, this isn't like you, can we just talk? Delete. At 7:30, he stopped calling and started texting. Where are you staying? Do you need money? I'm sorry about what I said. Please answer me. I'm your son, please. I turned off my phone and drove to the Marriott downtown where I'd reserved a suite. The room cost $300 a night, which would have horrified me 2 weeks ago. Now it felt reasonable for a woman worth nearly $1 million. The suite was beautiful, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay, a kitchen larger than the one I'd cooked in for 37 years. I ordered room service, salmon with risotto, chocolate cake, wine that cost more than I used to spend on groceries in a month. As I ate, I thought about Michael, probably sitting in his car in the driveway of the house that no longer belonged to us. I thought about the Patel family putting their daughter to bed in a house that still smelled like lemon cleaner. When I finally turned my phone back on at 10 p.m., there were 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. I deleted them all without reading them. Then I opened my laptop and began researching how to start over at 72. The next morning, I woke in the hotel suite feeling something I hadn't experienced in years, excitement about the day ahead. For the first time in decades, I had no one to cook for, no one's schedule to accommodate, no one's needs to put before my own. I ordered room service, eggs Benedict, fresh fruit, coffee someone else made, and ate slowly while watching the city wake up. Somewhere out there, Michael was dealing with consequences. Somewhere else, the Patels were making their first breakfast in their new home. My phone had been buzzing since 6 a.m. When I finally looked, I found new desperation in Michael's messages. Mom, I spent the night in my car. The new owners called the police. They have a restraining order. I can't get into the house to get my things. I lost my job today. I couldn't focus. I kept calling you. I don't understand what's happening. Please help me. I felt a flicker of the old maternal urge to fix, to soothe. But I remembered the sound of breaking glass when the family photo fell, the taste of coffee grown cold while I waited for an apology that never came. Instead of calling him back, I got dressed and drove to Pine Ridge Storage. The unit was exactly as I'd left it, neat stacks of boxes, furniture covered in plastic, a lifetime organized into concrete. I'd come for something specific, a small wooden box that belonged to my mother. Inside were documents I'd never thought I'd need. Michael's birth certificate, social security card, every report card, college transcripts, marriage certificate, divorce papers. The paper trail of a life I'd documented and preserved. Also, the receipts, every major purchase I'd made for him, down payment on his first car, college application fees, the $5,000 for his wedding, the $15,000 I'd lent him during his divorce, money he'd never mentioned paying back. And at the bottom, the most important document, loan papers from 2019 when Michael needed help with credit card debt. Papers he'd signed promising to pay me back $8,500 at 3% interest. Papers he'd forgotten as soon as the check cleared. I took photos of everything, then drove to Janet Morrison's law office. Janet was younger than expected, maybe 50, with kind eyes and a business handshake. Her office was filled with law books and family photos. "Mrs. Chen, Patricia Bentley referred you. How can I help?" I spread the documents across her desk. "My son owes me money, legal documents prove it. He's also been living in my house rent-free for 2 years, using utilities, eating food I provided. I want to know my options." Janet studied the papers carefully. "This loan document is ironclad. With interest, he owes you approximately $9,100. The cost of housing, utilities, food," she calculated quickly. "You could sue for back rent. In San Francisco, a room like this would rent for $1,200 monthly, 24 months. You're looking at nearly $30,000. I don't want to sue him, I want him to understand what he's lost." Janet leaned back. "What exactly are you thinking?" "He called me old and useless, said I was just someone whose house he happened to live in. I want him to know what that person was worth." That afternoon, I checked into a furnished apartment in North Beach. 1 bedroom, city views, walking distance to cafes and bookstores. The monthly rent was more than my old mortgage payment, but I could afford it now. I bought new clothes, not the practical, comfortable things I'd worn for years, but clothes that made me feel alive. A red dress that hugged curves I'd forgotten I had, boots with heels that clicked confidently on sidewalks, a coat that made strangers turn their heads. That evening, I went to dinner alone at a restaurant I'd always wanted to try but couldn't afford. I ordered wine, flirted mildly with the waiter, left a generous tip. I felt like someone I'd never been allowed to be. My phone buzzed constantly, but I'd changed the ringtone. Now Michael's calls played a classical melody that I could ignore like elevator music. The messages grew more frantic. "I'm staying at a shelter. I can't afford a deposit on an apartment. I have nowhere to go. I'll pay you back everything. I'll get help. I'll change. Please don't abandon me." But it was too late for please. Please was what you said before you hurt someone, not after. Please was what you offered when you still believed in forgiveness. I turned off my phone and poured another glass of wine. 3 months later, I was reading in my favorite North Beach cafe when I saw him. Michael sat at a bus stop across the street, thinner than I remembered, wearing clothes that had seen too many days. He was staring at his phone, probably looking at job listings or apartment rentals he couldn't afford. He looked up and our eyes met through the window. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he stood and crossed the street, walking toward the cafe with the careful steps of someone who'd learned that life could shift beneath his feet without warning. I didn't run, I didn't hide, I simply waited. He entered and approached my table slowly, as if I might disappear if he moved too quickly. "Mom," he said quietly, "can I sit?" I gestured to the empty chair. Up close, he looked older, worn down by months of uncertainty. But there was something else in his eyes, something that hadn't been there before, humility. "You look good," he said, taking in my new clothes, my styled hair, the confidence I wore like jewelry. "You look happy." "I am happy. I've been looking for you for months. I hired a private investigator. He said you're living in North Beach now, nice place." "It is." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid pressing between us. "I understand why you did it," he said finally. "I understand why you sold the house. I was horrible to you. I said things that—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "I called you old and useless, my own mother, the woman who sacrificed everything for me." I sipped my coffee and waited. "I lost everything," he continued. "My job, my home, my pride. I've been staying in shelters, working temp jobs, trying to save enough for a deposit on a studio apartment. Do you know what it's like to lose everything?" "Yes," I said simply. "I do. I lost everything the morning you told me I was old and useless. I lost my sense of worth, my belief that love mattered, my faith that being a good mother meant anything at all. His face crumpled. Mom, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I was angry about my divorce, about my life falling apart, and I took it out on you. It was wrong, it was cruel. I've regretted those words every single day. I'm sure you have. Can you ever forgive me? Can we try again? I've learned so much about what really matters, about what I threw away. I looked at him for a long moment, this man who had grown inside my body, who had taken his first steps toward my outstretched arms, who had once thought I hung the moon. Michael, I said gently, I forgave you months ago, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean going back to the way things were. What does it mean then? It means I wish you well. It means I hope you find happiness and purpose. It means I'm proud of the man you're becoming through this struggle. I reached across the table and touched his hand briefly. But it doesn't mean I'm going to save you. You called me old and useless, remember? Old and useless people don't have anything to offer. You're not old and useless. You're the strongest person I know. I know that now. It took losing everything to remember it, but I know it now. He was crying openly now, tears streaming down his face. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to earn your trust back. You don't, I said, not unkindly. You don't earn it back, Michael. You build something new. You become someone who would never say those words to another human being, especially not to someone who loved you. You learn to stand on your own feet so you never have to tear someone else down to feel tall. I stood to leave, gathering my purse and book. Mom, wait, can I call you? Can we have coffee again sometime? I paused at his table. When you're ready, really ready to have a relationship between equals, not between a savior and someone who needs saving, then yes, call me, but not before then. As I walked toward the door, he called after me, how will I know when I'm ready? I turned back one last time. You'll know you're ready when you stop asking that question. Outside, the San Francisco sun warmed my face as I walked toward my new life. I had a book club meeting at 3, dinner plans with my neighbor Alina at 7, and a weekend trip to Napa planned with 2 other women I'd met at a wine tasting class. My phone buzzed with a text from my landlord. Mrs. Chen, I have a friend looking to rent in the building. Can I give her your number for a reference about the neighborhood? I smiled and typed back, of course, I'd be happy to help. Behind me, I could see Michael still sitting in the cafe, staring out the window, learning, perhaps, what it meant to be alone with the consequences of his choices. It would be good for him. It had been good for me. If this story touched your heart the way it touched ours, please hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Your support means everything to us and helps us bring you more stories of courage, justice, and the power of standing up for what's right. Tell us in the comments below, what would you have done in Margaret's situation?